Rebecca Jane and welcome to Midlands at Home. On this week's show we are going to be looking at what's on the market, plus as more and more Brits are living in households with 2, 3 or 4 generations under one roof, we're going to be looking into multi-generational living. My guest this week is Gemma Phillips from Andrew Grant in Droitwich. Thank you for joining us, Gemma.
No problem.
Now you run the Droitwich office, don't you?
That's right, yes, that's in the centre of the town.
And how long have you been doing that?
I've been in a estate agency for about 10 years now, and I started when I was only 19. I worked for a corporate company, and then about 5 years afterwards I joined Andrew and went to work in his Bromsgrove office for 3 years, and then got promoted about 18 months ago and came to lovely old Droitwich there.
Brilliant. Well, we'll have a good chat about that later. We've selected a couple of properties that we've highlighted for this week. The one, actually, we've got a property in Moseley, and I think properties are few and far between in Moseley. It's a beautiful property. It's on with Robert Alston, and it's on at 699,950. It's a 5-bed detached, and it's a Victorian property full of loads and loads of character, isn't it?
Yeah, beautiful.
You've got the old oak flooring, the original oak flooring in the hallway. And what I personally love about it is I've got a big thing about bright houses, loads of windows, loads of natural light, and to me it's a really big thing. And I think the light just floods throughout the entire house. Talk us through about original features with.
I think retaining character in a Victorian home, if you can manage to retain the original features, things like fireplaces, picture rails, original leaded light windows, mint and tile flooring, it makes a real difference. And you can still put contemporary features like this one's done. It's managed to put on a beautiful extension with a glass apex above. All of that will enhance the property, as well as making it very light and contemporary. It still retains its original character without destroying it. They've done that with the kitchen,
haven't they? They've kind of extended out, and they've got that amazing just light all the way around it.
It's a super property, really super.
Incredible. And I think we were talking a little bit about Moseley, because it was in the papers. I think it was in the Sunday Telegraph. It won one of the best places to live in Britain.
Fantastic. So, you know, it's a really up and coming part of town at the moment, and so accessible for the city centre. Best of both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was the one that we picked. And then the next one, this is on with Edwards Moor, and it is a 3-bed semi. It's 111 Wolverhampton Road. That's in Pelsall in Walsall, and it's on with Edwards Moor at 149,950. Now, this is a traditional cottage style. It's a corner plot as well, and I think there's lots of advantages with a corner plot. You do get more space, you do get a bit more land.
With planning permission allowing, you can always extend them. You can add on a garage if it didn't have one. You can allow more parking. Depending on what your needs are, it really makes the property very versatile for most people, especially first-time buyers with a growing family. They can stay there for longer. Yeah,
exactly. So, and then what they've done is they've actually they've converted the loft to another bedroom, which is actually quite popular nowadays, isn't it? Really maximising that square footage that you've got, going up in the loft, converting.
As long as it's done to building regulations, we can describe it as a bedroom. Otherwise, I know quite a few families seem to manage to just cope with a loft ladder and putting a Velux window in and dealing with the roof space that they've got, enjoying it in whatever means they want.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a fantastic property, 3-bed semi, 149,950, Wolverhampton Road in Pelsall. So that's the other one that we picked. So you've been managing the Droitwich office of Andrew Grant for some time now.
Yes.
And your properties really vary, don't they?
Oh, incredibly. I mean, from my point of view, we're selling retirement apartments, ground floor apartments in the town centre at 97,000, all the way up to 500,000-600,000 at the moment. But, I mean, our property in general can vary. I think on our books at the moment within the company, our cheapest apartment is 47,000.
Oh, okay.
And our most expensive property is 9.5 million. So you can imagine what type of range we deal with on a daily basis. It can be one extreme to another. Yeah, but it's nice.
And the market's quite busy at the moment, isn't it, with springtime, more instructions?
Very much. The daffodils have come out, and the people wanting to sell their properties are in full force at the moment. So literally the last couple of weeks we've been having a lot of people decide to come to market. Their property's looking great, the sun's shining on them.
Oh, isn't it lovely to have the sun this week?
We've been really fortunate, and of course it's trying to get my photographer absolutely everywhere, every day while the sun is shining.
That's it, puts us in a good mood, doesn't it? Bit of sunshine and we're there. You've also had properties that you've marketed several times. Old Pulley is one actually that you marketed. When did you first market Old Pulley?
2011, we sold it to them from the previous owners, and it was a lovely property at the time then. But the new owners have clearly seen what could be done with it, and they've really enhanced it. Again, taking period features and enhancing them with contemporary interiors, adding something beautiful to it to make it really have the wow factor.
Yeah, even more beautiful. And you can see the pictures now. So we're showing the pictures, sort of from 2011 to 2015.
Yeah.
And the transformation actually goes from outside the property to within, doesn't it? What they've done with everything, the whole thing.
There is nothing that they've not thought of. The bathrooms are
beautiful.
Yeah, you'd be very comfortable in the bathrooms there, as well as the kitchen. Yeah, I mean, that's got the real wow factor. When taking clients in to view the property, the kitchen opens up into this beautiful glass and oak extension, and it really is something special when you've got such a superb view on the other side of that glass there.
I suppose that's one of the things you must love about your job, seeing incredible properties, seeing transformations, having, I suppose, how lovely that you had it, you saw it in 2011 and then you saw it 4 years later.
Completely different, yeah. That's what's nice, is that people remember us, they want to come back to us, and at the same time we get the added benefits of getting to see the complete finish. So it's lovely, it really is.
And then we talk about, so we've spoken a little bit about presentation. This is something that you do as an agency, actually. You have a list here, actually, that you can see of top tips. So the photographer is going to come around to your property, and, you know, perhaps you haven't been on the market for some time and you want some top tips, you know, so we get it right. From the outside, with your curb appeal through to your inside, there's a lot to just do beforehand, before a photographer would come around.
Certainly, yeah. If you're thinking about pre-preparation prior to the photographer coming, you might want to put a bit of colour at the front of your house with hanging basket, make sure the lawn is low, weeds are taken off the driveway, make sure that it's as trimmed and pristine as you possibly can. The first impression you make is the most important. If that driveway is clear, clean of weeds and any sort of markings on it, if the lawn is mown, the plants are colourful, it's really going to stand out, especially in the sunshine. On the day, remove the cars and the bins, the wheelie bins.
Yeah, any kids' toys or any rubbish or anything that might be.
Certainly. Gardens, if there's a giant trampoline, it might be worth moving it a little, or a slide, something like that. Just show it off in as much possible space as you can possibly give the public, so that when they come in they can get an emphasis of how big it is.
And I think because you'll often do a drive-by before you even go and view the property, so if they do that drive-by and perhaps it's not in, you know, sort of ship shape, they might not actually view the property.
It only takes something on the driveway that's not quite as impressive as another property that might be on the market, and that can put them off. So be on guard at all times. The internet leaves you open to people driving by at any point.
Yeah, and the inside, you know, making sure that everything, and we talk about sort of declutter, and it's having that balance, isn't it? You still want it to look homely, but you don't want it to be full of so many things that you walk in and you just see the clutter before you see the space available.
Floor space is important. If you've got lots of toys from children, it's good to have a toy box, things that you can pack them away if need be. Work surfaces in kitchens, it's really good to make them as clear as possible. Don't hide away every appliance you've got, but certainly don't leave crumbs on sides, and as it was the morning when you wake up, it's great to make beds and clear surfaces and have it presentable for viewers and photographs.
And cleanliness actually is another thing, because you do, you know, I've sort of heard of people before going around houses just saying about there's presentation, but there's also cleanliness. Keep it sort of nice and clean and tidy. The
reason developers make a show home look as superbly clean lined and presentable as it possibly can be is because of the feelings we get when we're inside the home. If something's dirty, it doesn't give you inspiration to live within the house, same as if it's cluttered, it doesn't give you any impression of where you can place your own furniture. All of those things make us feel happy when we're inside of the property. Cleanliness, tidy, and just a general feeling of space.
Yeah, that's it. So you've seen quite a lot of houses now coming onto the market, more people sort of, you know, either wanting to move more houses, I suppose, shifting, because it was that cycle as well, wasn't there, of people wanting, a bit afraid to put the house on the market.
It's still going on to a degree. There was probably the last 6 months, all we've seen is people wanting to find a property prior to them actually putting their house on the market, which is understandable. The first half of last year showed that things were coming on and selling very fast. So if you're thinking about selling your property and you're worried that nothing you like is out there, then of course you're going to be very hesitant about putting it on. But of course that's a nasty cycle. If nobody is putting their house on the market, there's nothing for anybody to find, therefore nobody's moving. But I've seen a lot of confidence in the last couple of weeks. The sun's been out, people are really thinking, okay, chicken and egg situation, what do we do first? Let's put our house on the market. We can take our time to find. Buyers will wait for you in most situations if they haven't got a long chain that's well progressed. get on the market, get yourself some interest, and get out there looking for a property as soon as you're live and ready and available online.
Yeah, it's a brave step, isn't it? It's really putting a house on the market, because it's maybe a home that you've lived in for a long, long time. And
some people can be in their homes, even recently I've put properties on the market where they've been there 54 years.
Oh gosh.
That's a long time.
And it's that emotional attachment then, isn't it?
Yeah, entirely. And it's not easy. And I feel for somebody every time I go and visit them, if they've lived there a long time, it's not an easy step. But we will help people. We will guide them through it. It's not a scary process.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
used to be,
yes,
but I think there's far more ways in which we can keep things as calm and stress-free as possible.
I suppose that's the beauty of someone like yourselves. You're there to sort of guide them through the whole process to make it as easy as possible. Almost hold their hand, particularly maybe if you're my parents, they downsized. It's quite a big thing going from family home, maybe downsizing, or if you haven't moved for a long time, or if you're just nervous about the process, you're there to make it a little bit easier.
A lot.
So, we are going to be talking about multi-generational living after the break, so don't go anywhere. I'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back. With more and more Brits now living in households with 2, 3 or 4 generations under one roof, it's becoming more and more popular. And Gemma, this is something that you actually have first-hand experience of.
Yes, I do. I actually live with my family, neighbouring them. It's something we did about 10 years ago when we bought 13 years ago when we bought the property. My grandmother lived on the estate where we'd originally grown up on. We always lived within a cul-de-sac away from her, and she was very much there to babysit all of the time. And it made sense that actually she could sell her bungalow. I'm fortunate, my stepfather's a builder, so we could build her a property next door. And that's what we did. And my grandmother moved in, and a few years later so did my great-grandmother when she'd become poorly and she was living in Cardiff. It was quite a distance from Worcester, so we moved her in with my grandmother. We were all there at least nearby where we could take care if there was any sort of assistance that was needed. So it came about that my grandmother and great-grandmother did live next door to us for quite a while. I then moved back and there was another annex built on the other side. Brilliant. So all in all, we all lived together as one big happy family, which is quite unusual. I do understand that.
But becoming more and more popular. And your property, I think you can see it here, we're showing you the outside and the inside. Beautiful property, by the way. This is something that you've been doing for, you've been living all together, for some time. I
think we've all been there for about 3 years now, all of us at once, and it's lovely.
It is a lovely property. And have you got your own front door? Have you all got your own?
Yeah, we've all got our own space, our own front doors, our own gardens. Everything is individual, so you can be involved or you don't have to be involved. It doesn't have to be that you're in each other's pockets all of the time, but at the same time it's lovely because if somebody's cooking a dinner for everybody.
Lovely,
and you don't have to worry about somebody being on their own of an evening if they don't want to be, which with elderly people can be quite an important thing, that they've got company. And with younger people, it's always nice to have somebody to look after the animals as well, and there's always somebody on hand with gardening. I'm a useless gardener, so
and you've got a few gardens. You've all got your own separate gardens, separate kitchens, which you can see in the photographs, so that's great because you have your own space, but equally you know that if there was a problem or if you needed to be by your family, you can just walk next within door. Seconds, you're there. So
it's lovely, it's very handy.
Yeah, definitely. And it is something that is becoming more popular. There was an article in the Telegraph actually, which we've got to show you now. Return of the extended family home as sandwich generation take in old and young. Millions of middle-aged people have had to find room in their homes for their grown-up children and their elderly parents as traditional large households make a comeback, study shows. Why do you think this is something? Do you think it's with the house prices, rental prices going up, and I suppose really with a lot of people having to work, mothers having to work, and there's childcare issues, everything, many factors all coming together?
I think it is a mixture of everything. With the elderly, for us, it was that we'd always promised we wouldn't put any of our elderly members of the family into care. The cost of care are high, but that wasn't really the point. I think we always wanted to make sure that we were near them, we were there on hand, and they never felt like they were living somewhere on their own, being cared for by the people. For the younger generations, I mean, for me, it suited me really well. My apartment was tenanted, and it meant I could go home, and I've still got family while I'm out at work full time that can look after everything that are there. The affordability is a big factor. Rental prices are still climbing, and the same with the property market in this area. It's still either stable or growing in most
rising,
areas. It's not easy to rent a property and save for a deposit. People can't just do that within a year. They need some kind of assistance, and whether these extra areas of housing are being built on the main family home to support them for 2 or 3 years while they save, or whether it is long term and they're building bigger annexes, bigger properties next door, so that families can live together more permanently.
Yeah, so it's financially it can make a lot of sense, can't it? Really, all being sort of on that one property with the the rise of sort of properties on the market at the moment.
Energy prices as well.
Definitely.
I mean, we're on LPG and we have got individual boilers and heating, but at the same time you could probably manage it that you were all off one heat source. That would save a massive amount of money in most places. If you're, instead of paying on 3 different properties, a lot of heating, you could combine it all into one. So I think there's a lot of factors after the recession that have contributed to the multi-generational living.
Yeah, definitely. And do you find, as an agent then, do you get many of these properties that come onto your books?
There's a few, not many. I think you've probably got to have a bit more imagination and work out, when you see a property, does it have the land or the outbuilding facilities to create what you want? There are a few that are out there. We've got one at the moment.
Yes, is that Bournemere Cottage?
Yep.
So that's on the market at the moment. How much is that on the market for?
That's 540,000.
Okay.
It was originally 2 properties, so a bungalow and a house, combined together.
Oh, you can see that here actually. You've got the house and the bungalow. And so they've combined that together to create this, incredible property.
Yeah, and only one family lives there at the moment. But if, to be honest, you could really pop in. I thought mum and dad in the bungalow part of it. You could easily have teenagers even having a room downstairs with their own separate family room, as well as the traditional 2-bed upstairs, family rooms downstairs, and really enjoy the rest of the property. And they can still have their own individual areas, which is nice.
Yeah, I think people want their own front doors. Does this property have 2 separate doors, or is it just the one?
It's got 2 and could well be made into more, yes. They've got the main front door and the door that the main family use, so you could easily partition it to create 2 separate spaces.
So they're using it as the one place at the moment, but and I think it's just having that vision a little bit, I suppose, or an agent being able to guide you, that if you went to an agent and said, look, I would really like, there's going to be a few generations living under one roof, either a property that I suppose has land so that you could create that yourselves, or if you did get a property that you would be able to use it in that way.
Entirely.
Like you said, a petition could go up in that property, and then you could...
Your agent should always point you in the right direction. There will always be something on people's books somewhere that can be moulded in some way, obviously subject to relevant planning permissions. Outbuildings are a great source of conversion. I mean, ours was a garage that was out in the back, and we adjoined it, and another garage, so the 2 were joined together and it was all created out of that. So have a look through floor plans, study them carefully. If this is something you're really seriously thinking about doing, there's a lot of ways in which you can create this annex space.
Yeah, and then I suppose by, maximising your square footage, you're then, in turn, you're going to get money, hopefully, back in your property sort of further down the line.
Definitely.
It's all positive, which I think is good.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be losing out by creating this space. If you're selling up 2 homes to buy it as well, you will probably free up some capital in the long run if you own those properties outright. You can combine that together, create the space that you want to create. You've got the perfect solution.
Yeah, that's it. So you find that there's properties that come on every now and then, would you say? There's not loads of properties
not
in terms of multi-generational living?
Not that are already set up in the perfect way. There's quite a few little annexes out there, but some might be, when we say annex, bedroom with an ensuite, and they share kitchen and living facilities.
Or maybe a garage that's converted to a separate annex, but not part of the house.
A 1-bed studio. I think if you want to make something really big, something that's consistent to live in all of the time, then you just have to research where you can make that space and what can be created. They're probably a bit harder to find.
But you can see the huge advantages, can't you, for multi-generational living, from, like I said, with your parents or your grandparents, or if you've got grandchildren and you think, actually, because I'm always on the phone, Mum, can you help me out?
Babysitting?
Yeah, exactly, on tap. How lovely.
Well, when so many grandparents now, I think, are responsible for the majority of childcare in this country,
absolutely.
I think it proves that having grandparents nearby is really useful for them as well as the children. It's nice to have that involvement with families now.
I think more and more mothers, we need to go back to work, and it's quite a headache when you think of childcare and everything else, and then you worry about your parents or your nana or whatever. It's quite nice to...
It's good to combine it all, isn't it? You've got caring for the elderly, caring for the children, and in the meantime you can still go out and have, work and enjoy it without feeling too much pressure.
And then the financial benefits, I suppose, as well, are quite huge. So there's a lot of pluses.
Yes, definitely.
So. So what's kind of going on at the moment? You've got lots of properties coming on the books at the moment.
Lots coming to the market. Lots of different price ranged houses as well. It's not sort of one sector of the market or another. There seems to be still quite a lot selling. It really is the most positive time of the year at the moment. I think the sun has done us numerous amounts of favours actually in the property market.
Let's hope it continues.
Fingers crossed. But no, I think it does make people see properties in a different light. I think it gives people encouragement. I think that, you know, there isn't so much negativity about there at the moment about the housing market, so people do feel a bit more confident. They're not sort of sat in the doom and gloom of the recession.
Yes.
And I think we feel like we're coming out the other end a bit more now, and that's comfortable. We're not quite as busy as what London is, understandably. That has its market all of its own, but in the Midlands we have seen growth. We've seen good growth over the last year or so. So let's just hope it continues. And it's certainly showing good signs of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you talked about confidence, which I think is important, that you get confidence from someone like yourself as an agent. An agent takes on a really important role, actually, to give the vendors, to give the buyers confidence with property as well.
Yeah, I think it's not all what people hear about the sort of negative stories out there. We see things on a daily basis and how things move. We can never predict what's coming up tomorrow, let alone 3 months' time, but we can at least help them deal with what's going on today, which from our point of view might be that we're desperate for instructions and we need more coming to market because we've got so many buyers registered.
Yes.
Or it might be that sales are slowing down a little bit. You've got to be cautious on your pricing. We're not doing it to sell properties desperately quickly every day. We're trying to guide people in the right direction so that they can sell their homes within a reasonable amount of time and make the move that they really ultimately wanted to do.
That's it, it's a service, and I think, you know, we do want good service, and, you know, we want it to all run smoothly, and it's never easy selling, is it, and never easy buying a house.
Being in the middle, we see everything, and
absolutely.
I think it's always good to remember that being the middle person, things happen on every side. People have lives that change for numerous amounts of reasons.
Well, thank you for joining us on the show today. Join us next week for more on Midlands at Home. See you soon.